podcast. And we've got it live on IG too. So have it set up right now where it's multiple streams going on. And I don't know. I think restream may have to be adjusted where I'm gonna have to look at a different avenue because connection just does not like myself. And it's good times, I have to deal with it. So, and it's unique because it is the fact that growth, which I talk about it, growth needs change. And it is unique that when you're going through a session, you probably need to grow. You probably need to have something set up where you are progressing and doing something different to set yourself up to get to the next point, to help the change to come into your life a lot simpler, a lot smoother than if you were trying to fight against it. I think that's one of those things that wants to change. People don't like change. We all try to fight against change, and we all assume that change is bad. But the thing is, change is the only consistent in life. So it's one of those things that it's always taking place. It's always going to happen within our life. And so it's something to embrace. But with change comes the growth that you need to have take place in your life to get to that next level, whatever it may be, and end up getting to the place that you want to be at, whatever that may be. And so you do have to have growth that takes place, but it comes with change. And as I always give a shout out, we do have our sponsor, that's Tabala's Food for Thought. So Jasper with Tabala, thank you for your hearts, for everything that you have in regards with highlighting small businesses, showcasing other small businesses, and really getting their heart story shared and letting people know about the other vital businesses in our community. So appreciate that. I do want to give a shout out for individuals watching the live stream either on IG or on Facebook, YouTube. If you're in the Colorado area, next Monday at 7 p.m. Doors open up at 6:30. Flip is putting on a pretty interesting aspect for unfiltered raw stories, and it's memoirs, true stories unfiltered. And so this will take place at Three's Comedy Club next Monday, the 29th of March. Like I said, doors open up at 6:30. And then the stories begin at 7 p.m. So if you're in the Colorado Springs area, come out to Three's Comedy Club next Monday and come check it out and want to know. Q is speaking, and then Patrick's also another speaker for that event. So it's going to be a good time. And then it's just all about coming out and really showcasing who you are, allowing people to know and get to know who you are as an. I think that's one of the things that really, it's the big piece that I talk about is we've got to show up and be true to ourselves, be authentic, and take this off so people can really truly know who we are, because we go through life and we try to cover ourselves. We try to protect ourselves from not really showing ourselves. We don't show up and be true to ourselves because we're scared of what other people are thinking, what other people may consider who we are, may think about us. And I think that's a unique thing because of what's coming up with the conversation is this paradigm situation about the fact that your self-image, you really need to work on adjusting your self-image, because if you don't adjust self-image, that's what's pushing out, and your self-image is going to keep this baseline here. And there was Proctor talked about how that self-image is like your thermostat, and when things adjust from that baseline, whatever it is, it's going to try to come back to that avenue. And it's unique in regards with that piece because of the fact that it's the mindset piece. And so for success to occur, 5% of it's strategy, 95% of your success is based on your mindset and based on the stories that you're telling yourself, the thoughts that you're having. And so when I look at the aspect of my divorce and what I had to deal with, and the story that I was telling myself was I wasn't worthy. And so the scary thing about that is because of that story, that thought I had, it was going out there, and if things would go good, it would go back to that baseline of I wasn't worthy. That was my self image that had been implanted into my subconscious, and that's what was being projected. And so that's a sad thing when you really think about it, that you may be doing everything right, but if you don't work on your self image and you don't work on the way you see yourself, that progression and what you've done to grow and move forward may not stick. It may be temporary, and then all of a sudden you go back and you're like, what is going on here? Why am I in the same boat that I was before? And it's because of your thought process, your mindset, the stories that you're telling yourself, that self-image that you have. And so that can be one of those unique things that you've got to work on. And so that's where the growth that you want to take place in your life is going to have to come because of change. It's going to have to go hand in hand with whatever's taking place for you to progress and grow. And so that change is a scary thing because there are things that we're going to have to face against, adjust, and look at it differently, have it in a different sense than what it was before. But that's that change. And so change can be scary because you're going up and potentially going out and pushing against your comfort zone. You're going up and breaking down the walls of your boundary that you've established because of that comfort zone. And it can be scary because of what's on the other side. You may not know what's on the other side because it's outside of your comfort zone. And so that's where a lot of individuals have the aspect of not wanting to change because they have to go and push out and push against their boundaries that they created with that comfort zone. And it's interesting because this is an engagement piece. This is something that it is your engagement that you have to put into your life to go and make that change. You have to engage with that. You've got to engage your mindset, engage with the way you look and view things so you can go and make those changes that you to occur. But it's an engagement piece. It's really having the wants and the desires to go and make those changes. But if it's not aligning with your self-image and your self-image is completely out of whack, then you're at a point where you're not going to make the necessary changes. The changes that you want to make in your life will not stick because you have this self-image that you have not gone and adjusted. And so I think that's a unique thing, that engagement is a mindset. And so that's one of those things when you think about it, that the mindset piece is huge. And so the fact that we have to deal with the mindset, with those stories that maybe have already been established, or you're battling because of what other people have spoken to you, what other people have stated to you. And so maybe you're dealing with this mindset piece that if you're trying to do it on your own, good luck, because there's nothing coming in there to break that negative loop that you might have. There's nothing that's coming in there to break that vicious cycle you're having, and nobody's stepping in there to adjust that for you. And so that's where it does come to the power of finding your tribe, finding the individuals that you can lean into, and they can come and step in and help you look at it from a different light. They can help you break that vicious thought pattern that you have, that you've had before, that if you try to do it on your own, it's hard to break because you've gone down this negative loop, you've gone down this path that you're used to going down. And so it is that habit that you've created for yourself that if you don't find somebody that can help you go in there and they can step in and break it for you while you're working on it and trying to help readjust it, you're going to continue to face this situation where you're listening and those negative stories over and over again. And so it does come into play of having somebody that's there for you, help you go and make the adjustments, but you've got to go make the adjustments. So this comes down to you doing the work, working on yourselves, doing the deep dive. And if you don't do the work, why would you expect results to be different? Why would you expect to have things be in a different light for yourself because of the consistent aspect of what took place before you got to a point where it really needed to adjust and really needed to break down and change? But that's the thing, that when we are in a relationship, a lot of times we end up disconnecting from ourselves and we start pushing away those things that need our attention worked on because we're in a relationship. And so we end up losing ourselves and we disconnect from ourselves. And then we miss out on the continual growth for us as an individual. And so that it comes into play where you still got to work on yourself while in a relationship. And that can be a tough thing because sometimes working on yourself may be viewed as being selfish, that the other person may not understand, that you'll have individuals that look at you like you're crazy and they'll be like, why are you doing this work? What's going on? And when you talk about personal development, a lot of people don't understand the power of personal development and what it does for you as an individual. And so that's where it can be tough because you may be viewed as being selfish to go and work on yourself because you need to. But the thing is, sometimes you have to be selfish to be able to be selfless and to pour into other people. But it depends on how other individuals are viewing that situation. And then if you get scared and you're fearful of that judgment of somebody else, and the unique thing when you look at this is we get into the situation where you are taking the opinions of somebody else that doesn't understand the power, that doesn't understand the aspect of your paradigm and how that impacts you. And so you have somebody that maybe is speaking to you and giving an opinion that they don't even fully understand, that they're in a spot that they're not doing the work. And so they're not in the arena. And so they're coming and telling you what you need to do and what you should be doing. But why do you expect that you're going to see things differently if you're receiving an opinion or advice from somebody else that doesn't fully understand the impact of the mindset, the impact of the self-image, and what that can do to you in regards to trying to make changes? And so if you're going and your self-image is one that you're not worthy, then you're going and you're working on yourself, and maybe you're having some growth spurts and you are making some adjustments, but because your self-image is this one of I'm not worthy, you're going to be brought back down to that normal aspect of what your self-image is. And so it is one of those powerful things that is the fact that it's a mindset piece. It's really working on yourself internally. And that's one of those things that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people have the issue because they have never done it before. They've never experienced it before. And so because it doesn't align with their ideas and their thoughts, they don't believe it. And so when they see somebody else doing something that doesn't align with their thoughts and their values, they're going to push out they're going to push out their opinions and their ideas on other people. And then you have that potential chance that you miss out on an opportunity to work and progress on yourself, to do that change that needs to take place in your life, because you're listening to somebody else that's not in the arena. You have somebody that's sitting in the stands watching and is giving their opinion, but they didn't put in the work. They're not in the arena. They're not getting beat up. They're not bloodied or bruised, because doing the work itself is it's an exercise that can be very um, dictative of having a lot of focus, because you have to focus on changing your thoughts. You've got to focus on changing that self-image inside your subconscious that you're holding on to. And if you don't do the work and you're not used to it, you're going to make small steps, make progressions, and then you're going to fall back. You're going to fall back into old ways, old patterns, old habits, because that's what you're used to. And so it's one of those things that I look and I've talked about the statistics before when it comes to divorce, or first marriages in divorce 50% of the time, second marriage is 67, and then third marriages are 74% that end in divorce. And it just really gives concrete information there through numbers that you have individuals that are going from one relationship to the next, and they haven't done the work on themselves, aren't doing the aspect that they need to adjust and be a better version of themselves going into the next relationship. And so if you have somebody that is not breaking the habit, that's not breaking those stories, that's not breaking the self-image, they're carrying that stuff forward going into the next relationship, and then experiencing things all over again. And so it is unique, because you'll have the fact that a lot of times it's a aspect that we have inwards, that we have to focus on ourselves, and we've got to work on ourselves and do that work. Because if you're looking outside yourself and you're trying to change somebody else, you're trying to adjust how somebody thinks and how they view the world, it's not an easy. And so what's going to be easier for you as an individual is to focus on yourself and do the work for yourself, because you have control over other people. And so it's unique, because a lot of times people don't want to look at themselves. They are trying to look outward and see other things that they can go change, see other things that they can adjust, because they, for whatever odd reason, we as humans believe that it's going to be easier to go and change somebody else. But ultimately, what's going to be easier is working on yourself, looking up and saying, what can I do to change? What do I need to do to become a better version of myself? What is it that is holding me back? And I'm the one that's impacting the relationship because I'm holding myself back. But it can be tough because people don't want to admit that they are the cause for something taking place, for the challenges popping up. And a lot of times we are our worst own enemies, and we're creating these challenges on our own because of our belief system, because of how we see things, because of that self-image that we have of ourselves, that's getting pushed out. And so it's a unique thing that you can go do different things, but if you haven't done the work, it's not going to work out. And so that, but it is the fact that you've got to go and do the work for yourself. You've got to go make that change. But do you want to go and make that change? And so that's one of those things that I look at the fact that Bob had talked about, that success is strategy, 95% mindset. And so think about that, how that relationship. Where is your mindset when it comes to being in a relationship? And where does it come into play for you as an individual when you view yourself and how you see yourself? Because your view of yourself, you're going to shout, and then you're going to end up having that show up in other people. And so if you don't have a good outlook on yourself, that's what's going to show up in other people. That's what's going to be present for you. And so then you get mad and you'll be like, man, this is crazy, like this person, but it's honestly, it's yourself. You're pushing it out onto other people. So you've got to go and do the work. But it's not one of those easy things. And so I look at it because a lot of times we are prone to go and try to find a therapist. And so if you're at that boat where you need to go and talk to a professional, because with therapy, it is an individual that's working with you to take you from rock bottom to baseline, whatever that baseline is. But their skill set that they have is to get you from that rock bottom place to that baseline, whatever it is. And then a coach is there to help you go from going from baseline to thriving, whatever area, whatever that is. Because the thing is, when it comes to that coach client relationship, you as the individual know yourself best. You are the expert in your own life. And so it comes into play where you create your own homework, whatever things that you need to work on, you figure out what that is for you and you implement it. The coach is there just as a partner with you to hold the flashlight and really look and do a 360-degree look in your life and see really what you want to go accomplish to get from baseline to thriving, whatever it is. So that's the unique thing, that a lot of times the coaching relationship, it's there working with you in a partnership, but you are responsible for the journey. The coach isn't going to say this is what you need to do. No, you figure that out and you go and walk forward and whatnot. And so I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is you have somebody that is there with you, walking hand in hand through that partnership, but you're the expert in your own life, and you go and do what you need to, whatever that is, to go to get to that next level, to get to that next step. And the biggest thing is, right now, what's the smallest, simple step that you can take to get to that next aspect that you want to get to? And so that's something that you've got to ask yourself. It's like, where do I want to go? What's that next step that I want to take to get to that next level? And then you got to ask yourself, what's the step that I can take that is going to allow me to go and move forward to that next location, that next spot? And so then that's where you start stacking and having those small steps stacked together and start working, and then you start making bigger strides. But it's all about the smaller steps, and it's not taking this huge giant leap. It's really going and taking the smaller steps to get to that next level. And those smaller steps, it's up to you, whatever that is. But I think the first thing really is getting to the point where you can love yourself for yourself, love you for who you are, everything it is, and accept yourself for flaws, quirks, everything, and be able to self in the mirror and say, I love you. But that, that does take time, because you're having to break down a lot of these negative stories that you've been telling yourself, a lot of these negative thoughts that you've had, and then having to readjust the thought pattern, because it is hard for us as individuals, as humans, to really truly look at ourselves and say, hey, I love you. I love you for who you are. Thank you for what you bring to the table. Thank you for your work ethic. Thank you for just being you. But that can be tough because of what society tells us, of what we hear in society. And so it is having to break those negative stories, those negative thoughts that has accumulated over years. And so you've got to think, because you have a lot of layers that have developed over time, and you've got to start breaking those down and start peeling away and start chipping away to get back to that core message, that core story of who you are. And then once you get to that core, then you start building a new foundation. You start layering around that with new layers that serve you and will allow you to get to that next level. But it is one of those things that it does take time. And so I've heard in regards talking to a couple individuals that really to see change take place, it's 6 weeks really of hard. It's not hard work, but it's work of first 6 weeks of really tearing down and taking out the old mainframe, the old stories that you have, and then going another 6 weeks to rebuild the new story that is going to serve you, the new thoughts, the new mindset they're building to get to that next level. So it takes some time, and it's those things that you can't get down on yourself because you've got to understand you've gone through and you've dealt with this situation, and maybe it's been quite a bit of time that this has just gone over time. And so your mind is used to that piece of what normalcy is. So if it is a negative piece, that's what your mind is used to, and that's what it's going to search for, and that's what it's going to try to find because that's what it's used to. That's the normalcy for itself. And so you've got to start readjusting. And that can be one of those things that it can be tough. If you're used to chaos, you're used to the negativity from the party, and then you get into a new relationship that is completely different. No negativity, somebody there supporting you, lifting you up. It may freak you out because if you haven't work on yourself to adjust and change that old thought pattern, that old pathway that you had with the chaos, the negativity, you may freak out, be like, this isn't normal. And so that's where it does take time. You have to do the work, and you can't jump from relationship to relationship, because if you're jumping in from one relationship to the next, it can be hard because you have the old set of habits that you really need to tear down. You need to go into that self-image. What's that self-image for you that you need to adjust? Because if you keep the old self-image and it's like a thermostat and you have it set at 65, and then all of a sudden you're progressing and you get up to 70 degrees, your mind's going to freak out and be like, no, this is normal, and it's going to find a way to get you back to 65. And so it's one of those things that it does take work, and it's the power of finding a coach, finding somebody that you can work with to help you out with that. And so as you're thinking about this, if you're like, man, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck, I'm here, and I don't know what to do to get to that next level, hit me up, send me a message through Facebook, through Instagram, emails, anything like that. If my phone number, if you're watching this or listening to that, send me a message, give me a call, and I'll figure that out and whatnot. But let's sit down and talk, because ultimately, if you're trying to do everything on your own, not breaking the old habits, nothing's going to change. Things are going to stay the same. So it's not a good thing, because then you're in a vicious loop and tough and whatnot. So I do have one individual here that I want to give a shout out. And for individuals that may be listening to this right now, may be watching the stream on a replay, you can go download Anchor. It's a free app, and Anchor actually allows you to send a voice message, and that'd be another great way to hear feedback, kind of hear what you're thinking, how you're seeing it, and whatnot. But it's cool. They're somebody that made a podcast, and they have their own podcast. And I'm looking it up. The phone's being slow right now, and looking at potentially having her come on as a guest on the show and whatnot. But she had spent some time in the court system with I think the child side, I believe. But she talked about some crazy stuff that she saw, and I think she'd spent like 20 years. Deanna Kloster is the individual that favored the show. So thank you for that support. Thank you for checking out the podcast and whatnot. But she has her own podcast. I'm trying to find out here So you can go check it out. But with her podcast, like I said, the phone's being slow right now. I love technology. It's good times. But with Deanna podcast it's working. It's a family court rambling, and so pretty interesting just to have somebody come on and give their perspective and what they saw. And so I think with her experience, just to really have that piece of what she's seen, what she dealt with, would be awesome to hear and have that conversation. But she had one on here, bribe a judge. Very interesting. I've got to go check it out and whatnot. So, but other than that, appreciate you guys' support. Thank you guys for just giving me your love, your support, everything that you do for myself. But like I always do, though, thank you for you being you. Thank you for you just being the great individuals that you are, for being the great humans that you are, for being a great friend. And hashtag be a friend, tell a friend, share it with other individuals, share this with those that you know that benefit from just listening to the message, listening to the value that's being provided, and what it could do for them as an individual to adjust perspective. Maybe they're stuck in a certain area, and there's something that I've talked about before, that could be that one key nugget that they need to make the change or extract them from whatever they're stuck in. So you just never know. But hashtag friend, if you're like, this was not good, then just act like this never happened. But other than that, appreciate your guys' support. Thank you for everything that you do. I love you guys. I'll check you out next week. Other than that, you guys have a great week. Have a great night. Peace.